Welcome to Pace TV, the Pace of San Diego. I'm your host, Angel Alvarez, and today we'll be talking about what you do when you find yourself with a dump in the middle of your city. This is one of those stories like, what do you do when life gives you lemons? On our show today, we will talk about what the city of Poway did with an area in the city that was a dumping ground. What came out of that dump is what I would call an incredible wilderness within a city, called the Blue Sky Reserve. This is an area within walking distance of homes in the city of Poway. We will tell you about what you will find in this area, and that in some ways it's like it would have been a long time ago. Here to help me tell you about this amazing reclamation is one of the longtime docents at the Blue Sky Reserve, Al Torretto. Welcome, Al.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here today. Let's get started. So, where and what is Blue Sky?
Okay, where Blue Sky is located in the north part of San Diego County. It's between Rancho Bernardo, Penasquitos, and Escondido. And it's a little bit east of that, okay? That's where it's located. Blue Sky is an ecological reserve, which is a state of California category for a wildland where everything in that area is protected. You can't fish or hunt or pick the wildflowers. It's totally protected and preserved. That's why it's called ecological reserve.
Why and how did the Blue Sky Reserve even come about, and why is it an ecological reserve?
Well, way back in the late 1970s, maybe early 80s, right around there, a few citizens in Poway started realizing that North County was rapidly being developed, housing, shopping centers, and all that stuff. And they thought, well, we better set aside something here, a little bit of the true wild part of Poway. So these friends got together and formed an organization called the Friends of Blue Sky. Okay. And that's what got us going. Okay. Lady named Pat Dowell, who was a biologist, Dan Cannon, who worked for the city of Poway, myself, Jim McCarty, who was our president, Jan Goldsmith, which was, he's a lawyer, and he went on to do great political things, and a lady named Connie Youngkin. That was the original 6 members of Friends of Blue Sky.
We said it was a dumping ground. So was it literally a dumping ground? I mean, what kind of things did people throw away there?
It had been an area that was referred to as Blue Sky Ranch.
Okay.
It was a working ranch way, way, way back. And there was a few buildings back there, and there was all these different property owners that owned it. But what there was there's a road that went through it that went all the way up to Ramona, which was called the Truck Trail Valley Road. Anybody could go in there at night or in the day, because it had this road, and dump their trash, their old refrigerators, cuttings from their yard and stuff like that. And then also that people would go down there, younger people, and have drinking parties, and there'd be beer bottles down there. And actually, there was a couple of old abandoned wrecked cars.
Oh, wow.
It was a wild place, but it was an abused wild place.
Okay. So what is unique then about Blue Sky? What makes it an ecological reserve, and what is special about it?
Okay, this is a place where you can just walk there from your house, or you can drive a short distance there from your house, park, and you're in a pure, natural, beautiful park. So there's easy urban access to it. So a lot of people can just, there are people who routinely walk there every day. Another thing that makes it special, and this is which a lot of folks don't realize, it's truly a canyon. It has a north-facing slope and a south-facing slope, and it had, when I first started going there back in the 70s, it had a 365 a day stream that flowed through Blue Sky on the way down to Lake Hodges. It flows from, Ramona, Upper Poway area, and now it doesn't flow 365 because Poway Dam's been built, Ramona's Dam's been built. There's another area where they have wells, not in the park, but they draw the water out of the aquifer. Well, by doing that, you create different abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are the thing in the ecosystem that are non-living, like the amount of rainfall, the rocks, the positioning of the sun, what's in the soil. Well, you have this north-facing slope and a south-facing slope and the intermediate stream that goes through there. And it creates 4 distinct different habitats. And if you have 4 distinct different habitats, you have different plants and thus different animals that feed on those plants or interact with the plants. So you've got true chaparral on the north-facing slope, closest sage scrub mainly on the south-facing slope. Where the stream flows through the middle, that's riparian attitude. And on the either side, you have oak woodland. So you have a whole different habitats, different plants, different animals. That's cool.
So being a canyon then is very unique to that park, or to that reserve, I should
Absolutely,
say.
absolutely.
Okay. Who maintains Blue Sky? I mean, who takes care of it?
Well, Blue Sky is actually jointly operated by 3 different government agencies. Most of the land belongs to the state of California and was designated to be operated by the state Fish and Game Department, which is now called the Fish and Wildlife Department. Part of the land is county land, okay? And part of the land is city of Poway land. For the most part, the city of Poway is the true agency that takes care of the park, maintains it, and to some degree and stuff like that. In fact, the interpreter is a person who is hired by the city of Poway. City of Poway will go down there and empty the trash cans and things like that exist in Blue Sky. Okay. So it's these 3 agencies, but the one that does the most is the city of Poway.
Oh, okay. What kind of activities can people do when they visit Blue Sky?
One of the most favorite activities that people do is to hike in Blue Sky. There are people that are, you can go all the way up to Ramona Dam, you can go all the way up to Mount Woodson, which are, both of these are extremely long hikes with altitude gain. There's people who just walk a little ways in and turn around, but hiking is a big part of it. Actually, another part of it would be people who are what you would call wildlife viewers or bird watchers. You go down there and it's a place to see woodpeckers. It's a place to see bobcats. It's a place to see coyotes. It's a place to see beautiful snakes. Some people go down there and enjoy looking at the wildflowers. In fact, nature photography is a big thing in Blue Sky. One of my favorite things is combine all of those, to hike down there, to look at the wildlife, to get exercise, to smell the flowers, take pictures of them, and so on. So there's a lot of different activities that you can do down in Blue Sky.
Okay. Would native people have been in this area?
Oh, absolutely.
And used would it have looked similar to what it looks like now for them?
Yeah, if you go back 300, 400 years, native people like the Kumeyaay and stuff like that definitely used Blue Sky. A couple of reasons why. You had pretty much a permanent flow of water in those days, probably. Okay. And also, most of California Indians, or slang name for them, is the Indians of the Oaks, because acorns was one of their number 1 stays of their diet. Well, Blue Sky has a plethora of oak trees down there. In fact, we have 3 different species of oaks in Blue Sky, and they obviously produce acorns, and so I'm sure that Kumeyaay went there and gathered acorns. I have not seen it, but I have been told, and it's kind of a secret because there are people who go and destroy native sites or collect stuff. But what you had is what's called moteros and matatis, where Native Americans would put their acorns and grind them up to make a meal. They have, they're been found on Blue Sky, but they're kept secret, so they're not collected or destroyed or anything like that. A big difference was there was no invasive plants there, and one of our functions that we do as Friends of Blue Sky, we're going to do what's called trail maintenance, and one of the things we do is to remove these non-native plants or invasive species. And the reason why you do that is because those plants didn't evolve over time in that native habitat. So that there wasn't a natural checks and balance to keep them. And a lot of times they outcompete the native plants.
When Blue Sky first started, was there a lot of that in there? I mean, you told me when we had talked before, like citrus trees and all
well,
kinds of other stuff
there
that
was
in
actual
there.
part which was an avocado grove.
Oh, and avocados,
but,
that's right.
but it had been abandoned, and most of them were dying away
yeah.
because they weren't getting fertilized. They weren't getting the high amount of water that they require. But yeah, there was castor bean, there was Spanish mustard, which is still a problem. There were some eucalyptus trees in there too, and so all over time, most of the big ones have been removed, and some it's just a constant battle against them.
Digging them out and
Yeah,
keeping them
yeah.
out of there. Okay. Now, you were a teacher at Poway High for 40-some years. So what kind of things did you do, or do you still do with people at the reserve based on your knowledge of biology? What kind of things are exciting for you?
Well, myself and other teachers at Poway had that taught biology or AP or environmental science, we would do what we call field trips down to Blue Sky. And Blue Sky, what is so great is you don't have to travel miles and miles. I mean, Blue Sky is a mile from Poway High and a few miles from several elementary schools and junior highs. So that's great. It's been utilized by a lot of different schools. But the thing that's great about Blue Sky is that you can talk about stuff in a classroom, but when you can go out there and actually show it in the real environment, like one of the things I was talking about was abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are the non-living things in an ecosystem: rocks, water, rainfall, sunlight. That's abiotic factors. What's the acidity of the soil? The biotic factors are the living things: the birds, the trees, the worms. Okay, well, you go to Blue Sky, and like I said, because it's a canyon, it creates these wonderful different habitats. There's a north-facing slope and a south-facing slope. And what's cool about the north-facing slope, it has different plants entirely than on the south-facing slope. And it all has to do with the position of the sun. Since we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun's always in the south. What happens is the north-facing slope is the last place to get sunlight in the morning, and it's the first place to go dark in the afternoon. Well, that allows less evaporation of moisture in the soil. So the plants that live there have more access to water, so they can grow bigger, they can grow taller, they can grow lusher. The south-facing slope is the first place to get sun in the morning and the last place to go dark in the evening. So there's much more evaporation of any moisture on the ground, on the leaves, or anything due from the morning. So their plants that live there have to be adapted to surviving in a more drier habitat. And the difference also creates different animals that feed on those particular plants. North-facing slope, great for vegetation. South-facing slope, great place to see snakes. So you can show kids that. You can show kids different adaptations. Like, very few people realize that our coast live oaks, which we have a lot of in Blue Sky, don't look anything like an oak that you'd find like in Missouri or you'd find in Illinois, because our coast live oaks have leaves that are convex and have little prickles on it. Why do they have that? Because when they fall on the ground, they interlock and don't blow away, and it keeps the water from evaporating from the soil because we're a low rainfall area. So you can show things to kids like that. It's a tremendous resource for education, and for kids in high school, for kids in college, and for kids that are little preschool kids.
So it's a great educational place.
Oh, absolutely.
And as we said, it's right in the city. I mean, there are houses, a stone's throw, literally from the
and the
reserve.
schools are a short distance from it too. It doesn't have to be an all-day field trip to go to Blue Sky for different schools.
Does the appearance of the reserve change with the seasons? Do different things grow and different things fade, and how does that work?
Absolutely. People who live in New England, I love the change of seasons and the leaves turn color and stuff like that. A lot of people in San Diego don't think we have a change of season, but we absolutely do. Okay, and for example, the biggest factor in Southern California is lack of rain. You know what I mean? That identifies this. But right now we've had this beautiful rainy time, right? And the rainy time at Blue Sky is the time for ferns and mosses and mushrooms. Ferns and mosses totally depend upon water to reproduce. Land plants, like an oak tree or a rose bush, they have pollen. Pollen is designed for reproduction on land. But mosses and ferns are so ancient, they haven't got pollen. They didn't evolve pollen. They're like way down on the scale of development. So they have actually swimming sperm. And so you have to have rain for the sperm to swim from the male part of the plant to the female part. During the winter is when you see mosses and ferns. It's beautiful and lush. One of my other favorite things are fungi, mushrooms. That's the time that you see them. So that's the cool thing of winter and the rainy season. Okay. Spring, wildflowers, just beautiful wildflowers. One of my favorite wildflowers down the blue sky is called a shooting star. And you have Mariposa lilies, thing called Chinese houses. These beautiful wildflowers are in spring. And then you got all the butterflies and the bees and stuff like that. And then, of course, when summer comes, it's called wild cucumber. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just couldn't go through it. Summer is a good time, too, because you can see a lot of bees and insects, and that's your best chance to see cool lizards and snakes and stuff like that. And then fall comes, and that's when the oaks are dropping their acorns. There'll be thousands of acorns all along the trails and on the ground and stuff like that. So there is a true change of season. It's not as distinct. There are the sycamore trees which grow in the riparian area. Their leaves will turn yellow and they will drop off. Okay, but there is if you know what to look for, a great change of seasons at blue sky.
Let's talk. We just went through the fire season. So what does fire do then in this area? What happened a few years back when we had the big fires in Poway?
The best thing you can learn about fires in Southern California and at black sky, it's burned before and it's going to burn again. You've probably heard that before. We did have a fire, big fire in blue sky, and I think it was 2007. In fact, some of the pictures shows how blue sky was decimated, just decimated. You had chaparral plants burnt to the ground. Of course, any wildflowers there, they were gone. And usually, a lot of times that happens like in October, because then you've had things dry out all summer. The rains haven't come yet. The thing to remember, and then, it's a tragedy, it's sad, but because it's happened for thousands and thousands of years, the plants have adaptations to handle the fire. It's called fire ecology. But a lot of our plants have a root crown, a big ball underground, not like a bulb, like an onion, but it's a solid woody thing. The plants in the chaparral, a lot of them have a very low ignition point. Ignite at 350 degrees. They just boom. And what happens, these plants burn so quickly and so fast that the fire just spreads, which of course is dangerous. What happens though, the top burns off fast, but it doesn't burn so slow that it goes down and kills the roots and the root crown. Okay, so what happens is after it's burnt by from that root, because the DNA is there for the whole plant, so it just grows right back. Only a few remnants of the fire remain, and now those remnants are oak trees where they got burnt around their bark, and some of them, a lot of oak trees survived, some of them died and perished. But fire is an inevitability down there, and so on. But the ecology of Southern California in blue sky, especially because of the native plants, have adapted it. So they come back strong. One wonderful thing, there are certain flowers that will only bloom after a fire. Right. It's called a fire poppy, where the hillsides were just not just only fire poppies, were just covered with beautiful wildflowers.
And there's certain plants that come because of the fire, right? It takes the heat of the fire to crack the shells of
there are certain plants that they cannot reproduce and their seeds can't be released unless it requires a higher temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many people, do you have any idea how many people visit Blue Sky every year?
Well, if I can give you a tip, don't go there on a Sunday or a Saturday morning.
Okay.
Because the parking lot is packed, just packed, and there's lots of people hiking there. I would say, I mean, easily thousands upon thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people hike Blue Sky over the course of the year.
Huh?
I mean, just crazy. If I can give you a tip, go on a weekday in the middle of the day, and you will have peace and beauty, and that's when I go. Okay. Saturday and Sunday morning, no way, But if you want to have that, go in the middle of the day on a weekday, and you'll have the park very quiet and peaceful.
We haven't talked too much about it, but you belong to a group called the Friends of Blue Sky. So what is your function? I don't know if we've hit too much on that, but what do the Friends of Blue Sky do?
Okay, Friends of Blue Sky is a nonprofit organization that supports Blue Sky through several different activities. Any person can join, it's like a little membership fee, but what you're supporting is a number of things. One of the things we do is we do trail maintenance, where we remove non-native plants. We try to keep erosion from happening. We fund things that help Blue Sky from getting wore down and beat up and stuff like that. Another thing we do is we support educational activities. We have signage that we have done over the years that talk about the native plants and their ecological relationships. I think we've had 13 of these signs, and these signs are awesome. They cost a lot of money, and we raise the money to pay for them, but they're guaranteed to last over 100 years before fading. And that's one thing we do. We do activities. Like one of the most famous things we do is the Hoot, Howl, and Prowl, which is done on Saturday before Halloween, where you have all these volunteers dress up as mountain lions and rattlesnakes and oak trees, and they're in the costume, and they're all spread through the reserve, and little kids come with their families and their parents, and they hike in the reserve, and they learn about nature, and that's a great activity. We're doing one, it's called Blooms and Buzz, and it's for little kids 5 to 10 years old, and it's going to be done at the amphitheater. We have an amphitheater, which is really cool, and it's about how important pollinators are to flowers, butterflies, bees, hummingbirds. That's one thing we did. We also have what we call members-only hikes or activities. We did one, was at night, where the reserve's locked at sundown, but we gained access, and we had this whole thing where we set up all these white sheets and put ultraviolet lights on them, and we saw all the different insects and stuff that were attracted to it, things that you'd never see because don't go in there at night, because they got to lock it up because people go down and do bad stuff, Right. So we did that. I still lead school groups down there. Friends of Blue Sky do a lot of wonderful things. It's a great organization. There's so many great people on it. I mean, wonderful people. We have a college professor. We have a lady who's in charge of security at Verona, what's that called?
The
casino. We have a
yeah.
casino. We have illegal immigrant from Scotland on our board. No, I'm just kidding, my friend over there, Annie. She's our president and does a wonderful job. There's a lot of great people on there. So It's a good organization.
For a special treat, we have with us the president of the Friends of Blue Sky, Annie Ransom, who happens to be a friend of mine. So Annie, welcome.
Oh, thank
you for being
nice
here.
To be here.
Now, you just retired recently as the interpretive ranger for Blue Sky Reserve. So what does the interpreter ranger do? What were your functions?
So daily function would be overseeing the operation. Basically, a lot of volunteer management. We use a lot of volunteers, obviously, so that we can put on school tours, school outreach, activities within the reserve. We do trail maintenance. State Fish and Wildlife are the main owners of Blue Sky, so we have to keep them informed of what's going on.
I guess my question, what do you interpret? As an interpretive ranger, what does that mean?
Actually,
when
some
you
people actually say to me, are you a translator?
Yeah,
They think, on
that
who
would be-
translates
yeah,
you?
yeah.
Yeah, no, so we're interpreting the plants and the animals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the ecology of the area. So we're taking people down, talking about the different plants, different animals, their functions.
Now, you did this for a number of years.
Yeah, it's over
Jennifer.
20 years, 25 years.
Wow. What would be one of the things that you would like people to most know about Blue Sky Reserve? What kind of thing would you say, if you don't know anything else, you need to know this about Blue Sky?
Just that it's there.
Okay.
And it's shocking to me that even people in Poway don't know it exists. And it's 750 acres.
Oh, wow. We
You
never
know,
talked about the size of it. So.
yeah, everybody knows Lake Poway. We border Lake Poway, but people don't know that there's this hidden gem right next to Lake Poway. And Lake Poway is wonderful, but it's man-made. This is a natural, completely natural area that allows you to get lost in nature.
How many miles of trails are there in the reserve?
Oh, specifically within the reserve, we have one main trail that goes, called the Green Valley Truck Trail, and that goes for about 2.5 miles up to Lake Ramona. We also have a couple of little side trails. We have Torretto Trail,
Yes.
named after Al,
After Al,
which
yes.
goes from the parking lot down onto the main Green Valley Truck Trail. We have about 1/4 mile side trail, creekside trail, which we don't allow dogs on because that's a wildlife corridor, so we don't want that scent getting down there. And then about 1 mile into the reserve, you can take a right-hand trail, go to Lake Poway, go all the way to Mount Woodson. So from our trailhead to Mount Woodson and back, you're getting a good 11-mile hike.
Wow. So
I mean,
it's
that's a great hike.
5.5 miles up and
Up,
5.5
yeah,
miles back.
and it's up.
And it goes
And
quite a
it's
ways
up.
up because Woodson's quite high.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where all
You've
the
got some-
antennas are.
Yep, you've got some good elevation gain there.
I would like to thank you, Al and Annie, for helping us get an understanding of Blue Sky Reserve and its function here in North County. I hope it has encouraged you to go take a look at this incredible place and to take part in enjoying the vast nature that it has to offer. Please come back and visit us again.